people will always follow you when you're being real versus who you're trying to be. Like that authenticity will just shine. And it doesn't matter if you're awkward or you're shy or you fumble over your words. Great. That's good. That means you're a real person.
Welcome to the Tip the Scales podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. We are live at Mardi Gras outside in the middle of the conference. Today's guest, Jefferson Fisher, I am like a total fan of. Like, I cannot believe that I just got to interview him. I'm super excited. Celebrities follow him. If you don't follow him on Instagram or TikTok, you are missing out. His videos are super, super helpful in terms of communicating. We talked about a book he's writing. We talked a lot about communication, since that's what his videos are about, and being authentic. I really hope you guys enjoy this because I was really excited for it. I didn't know that you were the Jefferson that I follow on social media.
I'm that Jefferson.
Well, tell us your name and what you do.
My name is Jefferson Fisher, and I'm a trial attorney in Texas.
What kind of trial?
I do personal injury.
I didn't know that. Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. So a few months ago, my husband sends me this video, and the video, it was of you.
Okay.
And it was something about when people apologize, but they're not really apologizing. So it was something like, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Oh, yeah. That was how to handle bad apologies.
And it was something like the response was, don't apologize for my feelings. Apologize for what you did.
You got it.
And I fucking loved it. And I was like, who is this person? Like,
yeah.
I just thought I knew you were a lawyer, but I thought you were just,
some dude.
Like a TikTok lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I didn't know you did PI.
Yeah, I do.
You have 2.8 million followers on Instagram.
Okay, that is a correct statement. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is absolutely insane.
Are they real followers?
They are all real.
You didn't buy any of them?
No, I didn't pay for a thing.
Give me a little bit of history. I don't know anything about you.
Same. Hi.
Well, I'm interviewing you.
So I was at a defense firm for like 8 years, and I made partner. And about a year in, I just wasn't happy. And I didn't feel fulfilled at all on what I was doing. I was doing insurance defense, which was great for getting trials, had a lot of experience with trials, and decided to start my own practice. Right about that time, I started to kind of dabble in social media.
It's very like emotionally stable shit.
Well, good.
You know what I mean?
I do. That's what I hope to give off. But
like it's more like a therapist. Like I feel like.
Yeah, it's kind of turned into that.
Yeah. So tell me what was the evolution and how did you kind of blow up?
At the time, video had just become a thing. Like Instagram, before that, it was like you take a picture of your coffee and put a filter on it. Like it was just pretty pictures. And then they started doing video. I only had about 800 followers, and they were all my friends from like law school and high school.
That's cute.
That was it, yeah. Then I started getting more serious about, okay, what am I? Like, who am I? What message am I wanting to put out in the world? Why would anybody want to listen to a lawyer? I mean, just why would they?
I love that.
And,
who am I?
Yeah. And so what I did was I made a huge mistake that ended up giving me all kinds of insight and knowledge. And that was I paid for somebody to make me a video on what to do after an accident. Like super, super original, right?
Yeah. Nobody wants to watch that.
Yeah. And nobody wants to watch that. Nobody, not even attorneys. So I just paid money for nobody to see anything. And then that's when I just got like, what am I doing? And so I stopped trying to find the perfect lights, the perfect mic, the perfect setup, because I thought it just had to be perfect. And instead, it was really out of frustration. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to do this my way. And what am I good at? I like talking about communication. How can I help people with that? And so I made How to Argue Like a Lawyer Part 1 in my car. That was it.
Really, when I watch your videos, it's more like, like a therapist. Like, I'm like, this is great information as to how to communicate and like how to have like, I guess, higher emotional intelligence.
I'm somebody that I think others would say does have high emotional intelligence that has to do really with me, separate from my law firm or being an attorney, just my upbringing, how I've always been. And that translates. And I think what makes my page different and why it has had the success that it's had is I don't try and push out that I'm an attorney. I make videos on how to communicate, from how to deal with bad apologies, to handle interruptions, to have emotional intelligence, to boost your self-esteem, how to find confidence in your communication, and do it in a really authentic way that's genuine to you. And I found that I do well at taking very complex, hard ideas and bringing them down to something super simple. And I try to put it in a pile of 3, or just to say it, that's immediately actionable. Because so many people, like in communication, will say, well, you need to be a better active listener. You need to connect with the other person. Well, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Well, I think it's a bunch of fluff for saying you need to create a deeper, beneath the surface way to talk to somebody, understanding that argument is really a window into somebody else's struggle.
All these things, though, did you learn them in law school?
No.
Well,
No.
I knew the answer.
Yeah,
but...
yeah, definitely not. Law school, I wish they taught that kind of stuff. But
so how did you learn all this?
a lot of it has to do with my upbringing. I'm a 5th generation attorney.
I love that.
So yeah, my
husband is like an 11th or some crazy
cool.
shit.
Yeah. It's as far back as we go.
Well, yeah, for us, it's because his family's from Chile.
Oh, awesome.
But he doesn't practice.
Okay.
But he went to law school.
Very cool. I would get picked up from school and then get sat in the corner to be quiet while my dad finishes a deposition. I've always been around that type of conversation. My dad's extremely diplomatic. My mom's extremely kind. Oh. And they did that. And so my parents are the type that when I was a kid, they would pray that God would give me wisdom and always be my friend. Like that was the nightly prayer every night. And I believe that's come true, where a lot of wisdom that I've passed down from my family, which has been wonderful. And a lot of it's just the natural, I like to communicate. I like to talk to people and try to understand them and read rooms. And so what this means for your audience is you can take anything unrelated to what you do as practice. It didn't have to be communication. That's just happened to be mine. I like communication, but you could talk really about anything. So if you like coffee, if you liked, I don't know, you find you like arranging flowers, whatever you as a person, forget what you do for a living. What do you like as a person? Do that and talk about that. And let the law be second.
Because 1,000% agree.
The authenticity will be there. People will always follow you when you're being real versus who you're trying to be. Like that authenticity will just shine. And it doesn't matter if you're awkward or you're shy or you fumble over your words. Great. That's good. That means you're a real person. And I just don't think people, especially after COVID, they don't want the polish. That's where you saw so many accounts do so well in COVID, because they're at home, their hair's messed up, they're still in their PJs, and they're like, oh, I am too. And you find ways to relate to people on just a human basis. How many videos now take off where the woman is doing their makeup, as they're yeah, because everybody's doing it. It just you find different ways to be real. Mine was communication, but if I wanted to, and let's say I have a friend who's very OCD about coffee, like he's had to brew his coffee beans, how to steep it, everything. Let's say that was my thing. I could have done the same thing. I'd still grow the audience, because I'd be doing that first and forward, and you're going to find a community there. They'll find that you're an attorney, and that's what it's about anyway. What you trying to just sell yourself that you're always I can handle your legal case? They will know that. They will find you.
And how has your knowledge in communication helped you as a lawyer?
It helps me dial it down. When I was on the defense side, I became a plaintiff's best friend because I wasn't a jerk. I was somebody who shared information. I was transparent about what I could and couldn't do, and it helped resolve cases much quicker. I think this age of, it's kind of I would say an old school mentality of like, I'm going to beat you. No, I'm going to beat you. Like this just battle of ego of who's going to beat the other person in the case.
So much ego in this.
Yeah. My communication helps me not only with my clients, it helps me with juries. And so what I did was I took a lot of the same concepts that I teach my clients, because it's a weird profession. It really is. Like, you're hiring me to handle your beef with somebody else. Like, I got to go fight with somebody I don't have a problem with. And what makes it worse is they do the same thing. And so I'm now battling with another person who's been hired Like I'm once removed. And their whole job is to make me lose. That's it. And so when I put a client in for deposition or for trial, I'm just putting them up for battle. I mean, for an argument, to get tested, to get put in a really difficult position. And so what I did was begin to share some of that communication tips that I teach my clients and just put it on the phone.
You seem like a kind person.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I try to be. You
So
can thank my mama for that.
Yeah. I could see how that would help you, even like just dealing with the opposing counsel, right? Because you disarm them.
Exactly. So I had a funny story. I don't know why people say it's a funny story. It's not that funny. But you
need to do a video on that.
Right. He said he found out that I was on a case, and he called me. He's like, "Man, this is why I was on the fence." He said, "Man, I did not want to, draw you on this case." And I was like, "What's up?" He goes, "You're too nice. You're too nice." He's like, I can't, because he and I have had a trial before, and it was a criticism of like, I never did something that allowed him to get aggressive or be ugly or start to push, which he likes to do. That's his personality. And so by disarming him, he was never able to get ground on the case for people to, plaintiff attorneys want to kind of get the jury in an emotional position that they are feeling the same feelings as your client. But if you're always disarming that way, it was hard for them.
Right. And also if their strategy is that like aggressive strategy, and now they have they feel like they have this connection with you, their strategy is not going to work.
Right. And I mean, I've done, for example, one of my early cases on plaintiff's side, adjuster, I was dealing with the adjuster, a pretty substantial case, and I called him and he just sounded frazzled. I was like, what's going on, man? He's up in New York. What's happening? He goes, well, I just found out my dad died. I said, man, what are you doing talking on the phone with me? I was like, just go. And so we got off that call, and I immediately wrote a letter to him. Found his address, to his office, everything. Handwritten letter. Yeah, just like, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. I can't imagine it. Just know that I'm certainly feeling for you and wish you and your family the best. When I say that he called me back of just full of gratitude, we settled that case like the next day. I'm not saying that's why I did it. I'm saying that we never had a word of animosity between us. There wasn't anything bad. Typically, plaintiff attorneys are we just want to have that kind of, you've seen it. It's the ego of how big can I puff up my chest? And instead, when I just recognized him as a real human, that made all the difference. Also makes a big difference to the jury when I'm talking to them.
Why do you think that people are so afraid to take this approach and to be themselves and to be vulnerable?
Well, we often don't like ourselves.
Oh, wow.
It's yeah. Hey, you knew when you brought me on.
Yes.
That's where it'd go. But yeah,
we can go deep.
Yeah, you have to love yourself. If you don't, or at least be okay with it.
But where does that come from? If somebody doesn't love themselves, which that must suck, because you have to spend all day with yourself every fucking day. So, but I have to assume that comes from childhood?
Yeah, well, that's the nature versus nurture kind of aspect. I think that when you deal with childhood, maybe you grew up in a house where your parents argue in front of you. And that's okay. And maybe I grew up in a place where my parents did not argue in front of the kids. It was not okay to argue in front of the kids.
See, I mean, I can already, do you have kids?
I do. I have 2.
How old?
5 and 3.
Okay. I have an 11, 9, and almost 6.
Okay.
But I can already tell when I meet someone like you that you probably had very conscious parents.
Extremely. Yeah.
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 And I feel like I already fucked mine up.
No, you haven't.
No, trust me. In some ways I have.
No. Well, all parents do, in some way. Yeah. And I'll tell you one piece of, I only share this because I say it to myself and it helps me, is that once you have kids, you now exist as their memory. Everything you do, everything I do, who I meet, who I put myself out as, what I now just exist as to serve as their memory. That's really it. And I think when I put it in that perspective, it makes me very much more conscious of what I say in front of them, how I respond and react to some of them. But when you ask me, where does this kind of come from? Yeah, my parents were very intentional on it. And I'm very thankful to that. I also have just kind of an old soul personality. Like I was always the dad of my friend group. You know what I mean? And so that's just kind of how it's what I like. I'm a big brother. I'm the oldest of four. I love being the big brother. I've always loved being the big brother. And
Oh, that's
so,
really cute.
oh, I love it. I love my siblings. And in many ways, I was more of the dad than my dad. Even my dad's fantastic. I'm just saying we had that kind of relationship where my sister could do something and she's like, oh, mom's being so crazy, you know. And I look at her like, Sarah, like no, you're actually out of line. She goes, oh, okay. Like
You're the voice of reason.
Right. Like she wouldn't believe my dad, but if I said something, they'd be like, okay, I guess it's true. It's just like a sibling thing.
And then how does this translate into the way that you are a leader and the culture at your firm?
I try to make sure that at the very beginning, I set the values of my firm right up from the beginning. And so those values would always reflect me and my personality. Just the brand, like the color, the text, all of that. I was super, super into that. I majored in marketing. So
You did?
Yeah. So I'm a big guy on font and brand. Like I'll buy stuff just because I think that somebody's like brand and marketing is cool. But yeah, so in terms of those core values, so feed the sheep, which is it's a Christian based value of just you just take care of people for the right reasons, no matter where they are in walk of life. You're going to meet them where you are, where they are, and be there. So that means no matter what, it doesn't matter if it makes us money or not. Are we taking care of people first and foremost? And then because when you do that, everything else will take care of itself. I have a wonderful group of attorneys around me. So I am the type that I want to surround myself with people who are better than me. And I think for the most part, I have the firm is doing fantastic for the fact that it's only been like a year and a half.
Yeah, you said you have 11 attorneys?
Mm-hmm.
How many staff?
12, I think now.
12 plus 11 attorneys?
Yeah.
Wow. Congrats. That's how have you handled that level of growth?
I just hang on. Yeah.
Did you implement like a ton of processes and like go through all that?
So we have really good systems in place. And I think the benefit is I grew that from the very day we started.
Where do you guys practice?
So in Southeast Texas.
But is it just Texas or are you anywhere else?
Just Texas. I just started.
I know, I'm just curious, but I assume you're generating cases from all over because of social.
Yes, that's correct.
And how are you handling that?
Hanging on.
Right, and you're just like referring them out, I would assume?
Yeah, so ones that are not pre-lit or not suitable for pre-lit, I do refer those out. Otherwise, I just handle them in-house. I have about 6 million followers. And
that's crazy.
It's wild, right? And I get DMs constantly. And I know generally about how many followers I gain like per minute.
That's crazy. How many?
Yeah. Typically in a given minute, it's about 1,200.
What?
Followers.
And how many are you losing?
In a day, I might lose about 1,000 followers a day. But I'm gaining 10 to 12.
That's nuts.
So yeah, it's weird. But it also depends on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
What was there a video that put you on the map?
No, there was about 4 of them.
And what were they?
I don't remember. It was back in February of this year. So I didn't even have 300,000 followers until like, let's say February. Then I had like 4 videos that I had posted 2 weeks prior just started to go nuts, and they all started feeding off each other, each getting 5-6 million views. And then it was just all floodgates.
How did that feel?
Overwhelming. I had my first panic attack. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. The night that my followers, I was gaining over 100,000 followers a day. And so within a week, I'd gained 1 million. And
that's crazy.
Yeah,
Congrats.
It was weird. Well,
Good
thank
for
you. But it was, oh yeah, thank you. It's a huge blessing. But I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I'm just a guy talking in my car. Why? I didn't expect all of this. It's not why I got into it.
I think people are really hungry for this information.
Yeah.
I know I am.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It turns out that there are, which is wonderful because it feels good to have something that you genuinely like to talk about and that you can genuinely share from a good place and for the right reasons. And I never in a million years thought my social media would do this. It's not like I'm not one of these, I think you can tell, I'm not one of these legal bros that's like, man, I'm going to put out this video and come sign up with me and get these leads. That to me, that's not, you're not building social for the right reason. In my mind, there's a reason why it's called social media, not like sell media. And so I find that message resonates with people. But at the beginning, it was very overwhelming. So I remember the night that my account hit 1 million, I was like, this is just nuts. And then I started getting a bunch of celebrities. And then
wow, that's really cool.
That was wild.
That must have been what like really.
Yeah, that night The Rock followed me, and I was like, no, that can't be right. Sure enough, it was right. And he at the time he was only following like 300 people, and he had 365 million followers. And so once that happened, then it took off even more. And so you have these different celebrities that start following our message and say, hey, I love your stuff, or they start sharing my stuff. Then you just go like, I don't know what world this is. Last week, it was Jennifer Gardner, followed, loved, and shared some of my stuff. Week before that, it was the one from Kristen Bell. It's very weird to watch movies or see stuff and go, hey, that person commented on my thing yesterday. It's weird.
I'm telling you, the video that's like the video I always remember you by, because it's something I think about a lot.
Yeah.
Because how many times has someone said to me, I'm sorry you feel that way?
Yeah.
And it's like,
you don't know what to say.
Yeah, you don't know what to say. And I've actually used it. My husband and I have used it on each other, even though he sent me the video.
Yeah, well, it fixes it pretty quick.
Yeah, and I'm like,
you know what I mean?
No, and I even teach it to my kids.
I mean, I use the same advice in my own life. I mean, I'm nowhere near the perfect husband, perfect communicator. I use the same stuff, but I think it's just a gift that I'm able to come up with. I get questions all the time. What do you say to this? Or how would you handle this? And whatever I say, it seems to resonate with people, which is super, super cool. It's just very, I think, also contrasting for people because you don't expect an attorney to be talking about this kind of stuff.
Right.
So I think that's also some of the interest. Like we like contrasting words. Most books that sell really well are contrasting words.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I think that is what fascinated me about it, because when my husband sent me the video, I was like, he's a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I'm in this space, so like I know how lawyers communicate.
Right.
So I was like,
funny.
This is interesting.
It has been quite the ride, and I'm just thankful to people that follow me. I mean, that's all there is to it. I'm just extremely, extremely thankful.
Well, I think that's the key to life, though.
Yeah, a lot of gratitude, a lot of humility. It's been a lot of fun. It's very odd to say, like, I could take a picture of this Yeti. My stories get roughly about 250,000 views. And that's just in a story. And so you go, it makes you real hesitant about what you post.
Right.
Like it can get in your head.
Yeah, because so many people are going to see it, and it almost feels like you're responsible now.
I feel very much a responsibility to teach people, help people. I also have a very high duty of what am I choosing to share with them, because I get every day, I'm getting multiple, like very kind, sweet stories of people that I help them in this situation with. I help them reconnect with their spouse, a grandchild they haven't spoken to in forever, or they use this tip in X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, that's what we're here for. Forget the law firm. That's great.
And when you first started doing these videos, like, did you ever imagine that this would happen? Like, what was the point of the videos? What were you hoping to achieve?
There wasn't a point other than this is what I like to talk about, so I'm going to talk about it. And if it helps people, great. But that was it.
Are you writing a book?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for you.
Yeah. So I
am going to read it.
Thank you.
You're
I hope you do. I was writing my own book. I was going to self-publish. And then I got hit up by different agencies, and one of them is a big one. And they're like, no, you need to just stop and think for a second. So I got with them, and through a whole big auction bidding process, I have a major book deal with Penguin Random House.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same group that wrote that published Atomic Habits.
I love
by
that
James
book.
Clear. So I have the same.
I'm rereading it right now.
I have the same editor.
That's dude, that's fucking amazing. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you very much. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, super humbling.
Have you read the book?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's life changing.
It's wonderful. We'll publish that beginning, I think, right after election season.
I feel like your videos are somewhat in the realm of like self-help.
They're definitely in the realm of self-help.
And I've been obsessed with self-help since I was 18. Like before it was even cool. And my friends were like, we'd go to Barnes & Noble and I'd go to it was called self-help at that time, right? And they would be like, you're weird. Like, why are you buying this shit? Yeah, like it was just not cool. Like now it's totally cool, right?
There's certain things in life that kind of become fads for a little bit.
Yeah.
The word narcissist didn't exist, 5 years ago. You know what I mean? And now that's people are very quick to call somebody that without really knowing that it's an actual diagnosis.
Right. Or even just being like, oh, well, they have narcissistic tendencies, right? Have you done videos on this?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah. So the last video I did on how to talk to a narcissist, I think it's at like 13 million views. That was about 3 weeks ago. So how do you
talk to a narcissist?
There's a lot that goes into it. But when you talk to a narcissist, you're kind of in two separate zones. You're in a praise zone or a provoke zone. So they delight in your frustration as much as they delight in your praise. So meaning somebody who has narcissistic personality, they want to hear that they're the best. They need to hear that. They have to hear that. You can't just say something good about somebody because they'll put them down to make themselves sound better, whatever that is. They also provoke, meaning they will aggravate you so that you will come back on them because they enjoy that control. So they'll control in the amount of praise that they're receiving. They will also control you in the amount of emotions that they are pushing onto you. But what I say in my video is it's a rigged carnival game. It looks like you can reason with this person. It looks like you can tell them, do you understand what you're even saying right now? Do you see how what you did hurt me? They're never going to come to your side of the court. You need to say things in a way that pique their interest, to flip the script to make them look better, because they'll do really anything to make the reputation look better. But you don't want to be in a place where you're trying to fix them, because that's not how that works.
Wait, so I want to ask you for some advice. So I'm really good with setting boundaries. Like I've always been really, really good since I was very young.
Good for you.
Yes. However, that also translated into me feeling like I always have to like have that fight. Like I don't know if that makes any sense, but like
you said fight. What do you mean by fight?
Or like always like speak up, even when maybe I just don't really have to, and I can just like not have that argument. Like I always feel like I have to set the boundary, even though there are times that I can just like look the other way and move on with my life and not have that argument. Perhaps
you have a tendency to take things very personally.
Maybe.
Number one, how personally you take things is a reflection of how much grace you're giving other people. In other words, if you're always choosing that what they've done or what they said is for you, you're always picking it up. Like
what if it
you're
is,
always
though?
carrying. Well, it could be, but then that boundary can be set up. But you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to.
And that's my problem. And I've gotten a lot better at it.
Then that just means you have a very busy schedule of going to arguments. I mean, you don't, when people say, I just have to say something. No, you don't. You really don't have to say anything. What you're saying is really for yourself rather than for the other person. So I find that we have a tendency, I do too, of you feel like what somebody has said is meant for you, even when oftentimes what they're saying is more of a sign of their vulnerability or their insecurity, and you're choosing to take it personally rather than being curious about why they're saying what they're saying. I find that just the question of how was your day, or have you been having a good week, bad week? When I ask questions on context, it tells me a lot more than me engaging directly in the conversation itself. The person I see it's not the person I'm generally talking to. Now, you and I are just talking right here, but you could have had a hectic morning. Let's say we're in Miami and you had a busy morning with the husband and the kids and you're flustered. And so you and I are talking to each other and something happens and you go off the handle. Now, I could choose to take that personally and start barking back at you. Or I could take that moment to pause and say, where's this coming from? And I think that allows you to have a lot more connection with the other person or relate to them and remind yourself that both of you are humans. So you could either be like in baseball where you take a swing at every single pitch, or you just let it go by. And what you'll find is when you don't swing at the bad pitches, your life's going to be a lot better.
Just talking about like that concept of being authentic, and it sounds so like cheesy and like overplayed to some extent, but you can tell, even I think subconsciously, whether somebody's being genuine or not. Like, are they being themselves or not?
Well, if you think too of some of the most followed accounts in social media, they're not the prettiest people. They're not the most well organized. They're not the like prime example of a human. They're just relatable. They have their hair in a messy bun. They don't have makeup. It's a guy who's hasn't even combed his hair, talking about kids pickup. Like just they're just being real. Because most of the time when you're on social media, you're probably using the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like you want people who look and feel and smell like you.
I think it's tough because of people are so afraid of like the criticism. And I feel like if you're not being criticized, then you're doing something wrong. Like you're not being yourself because you're never going to be for everybody. Like ever. Like some people must watch your videos and it's just not for them. They're like, ugh, like this stupid shit. Like, and that's okay. That's their loss, in my opinion. That's,
Well, thank you. Yeah, thankfully I have not had. I really can count on maybe one hand. I've had a slightly rude comment.
That's it.
That's it.
No one's trolling you.
Nobody's ever trolled me.
That's atypical.
Ever. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's very. The one time somebody made a somewhat rude comment, my followers just dogged the guy.
What did he say?
Like, oh, it was something about me being an attorney, which I understand. Dumbest advice he'd ever heard or something like that. It was definitely like a troll comment, just to spark. Man, the followers it was like 50 comments in a second, just like, just trying to attack this dude. I just deleted it all.
So besides the book, what's next for you?
Talk on podcasts. There's been talk on docuseries for Netflix. There's been talk on. Yeah, there's been talk on.
Like blown up
it's
over.
Weird, yeah. Talk on like talk show. There's been all kinds of secret stuff. But
That's so
it's
cool.
Very, very bizarre. So,
while you're running a law firm.
While running a law firm and most importantly, being a dad.
Well, I'm excited to follow your journey.
Thanks. I'm glad to have you with me.
Yeah. And I appreciate you jumping on. You didn't even know me and you agreed to do this.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
Well, Bob said you were good people. So I was like, oh.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
I work on it.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. The weather is beautiful. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you to everything that Jefferson shared with us today. If you found this story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show.